Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. Colombia says they will continue to receive Colombians who return as deportees after the Trump administration slaps sanctions. The hostage for prisoner swap continues, with 6 hostages for 200 prisoners agreed. The US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth assures Israel of US defense support. Preliminary investigation points to bird strike for Jeju flight crash landing in South Korea. Still unclear as to why the landing gear failed. In the clash of Indian titans, Grandmaster Pragnananda and world champion D. Gukesh draw their much-anticipated clash at the Tata Steel Masters in the Netherlands. The US and Colombia pulled back from the brink of a trade war after the White House said that the South American nation had agreed to accept military aircraft carrying deported migrants. The US President Donald Trump had threatened tariffs and sanctions on Colombia to punish it for earlier refusing to accept military flights carrying deportees. Here's our report.
Colombia on Sunday backed down and agreed to accept deported citizens sent on U.S. military aircraft hours after President Donald Trump threatened to pay in full tariffs to punish the defiance to his mass deportation plans. Colombia's President Gustavo Petro had earlier said he would only take back citizens with dignity, such as on civilian planes, and had turned back 2 U.S. military aircraft with repatriated Colombians. Trump responded furiously and threatened sanctions of 25% that would quickly scale up to 50% against Latin America's 4th largest economy. Petro initially sought to hit back and impose his own tariffs on U.S. products, but by the end of the volatile Sunday, he had backed down.
El gobierno de Colombia informa.
Colombian government informs it has got over its impasse with the government of the United States. In this context, Colombian Foreign Minister Luis Gilberto Murillo and Ambassador Daniel Garcia Pena will travel in the coming days to Washington, D.C. to have high-level meetings that follow up on the agreements resulting from the joint work that led to the exchange of diplomatic notes between the two governments.
Trump said he would suspend implementation of the tariffs. Secretary of State Marco Rubio suspended issuance of visas at the U.S. Embassy in Bogota and said visas would be revoked to Colombian government officials and their immediate family members. The White House said the visa measures would stay in place until the first plane load of deportees returns. Trump's deportation threats have put him on a potential collision course with governments in Latin America, the original home of most of the United States' estimated 11 million undocumented migrants. While previous U.S. administrations also routinely carried out deportations, the Trump administration has begun using military aircraft with at least one landing in Guatemala this week. Kajal's report, DD India.
Well, tensions in West Asia continue to evolve, in fact, as recent developments in the Israel-Gaza conflict and surrounding regions signal a shift in diplomatic efforts. Following successful negotiations, more hostages are set to be freed this week, and Palestinians are also making their way to the northern Gaza, and this is returning home. On the other side of the border, Israel has also extended its military deal with Lebanon. Here's our report.
Cars, trucks and rickshaws were overloaded with mattresses, food and tents that served as shelters for over a year for those in the central and southern areas in Gaza. Now, Palestinians are returning back home to north after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made the announcement which allowed them to return home starting Monday morning. This followed Qatar's announcement on Sunday that a deal had been reached that 6 more hostages will be freed this week as part of a continued ceasefire agreement with Hamas. The hostages' release is a significant development in negotiations that have already seen many captives freed since last month. The hostages will be released in two groups. 3 will return to Israel on Thursday and another 3 on Saturday. Among them is Arbel Yehud, who had been expected to be freed earlier but was delayed. Yehud's release, alongside that of Agam Berger, a soldier, marks a critical step in the process.
For us, it's one long day since October the 7th. And in this one long day, what keeps us is the big hope and faith that they will come back to us healthy, and that's what keeps us alive and keep us in focus.
On Saturday, 4 Israeli female soldiers, Karina Ariev, Daniela Gilboa, Nama Levy and Liri Albag, were freed after being held captive by Hamas for months. Their release was made possible after a deal saw 200 Palestinian prisoners freed in exchange. Families of the hostages expressed their gratitude, thanking US President Donald Trump for his involvement in their loved ones' safe return.
A very special thanks goes to President Trump for his unwavering support. Because of your powerful actions, we have our lives back. You made this deal possible after so many months where it felt like all hope was gone. Our hope rests with you for all of the hostages to return.
The role of the U.S. in these negotiations continues to be a focal point. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, in his first call with a foreign official since taking office, spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu on Sunday. The United States reaffirmed its commitment to ensuring Israel's security as part of its border strategy to maintain stability in the region. Meanwhile, Israel-Lebanon deal is also extended until February 18th, which was about to expire. Under the 60-day deal, the Lebanese army was to deploy alongside UN peacekeepers in the south as the Israeli army withdrew. United States would negotiate with Israel and Lebanon for the return of Lebanese prisoners captured since October 7, 2023 Hamas attack on Israel. Aarti Rana's report, TD India.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appeared in a Tel Aviv courtroom on Monday to resume his testimony in a high-profile corruption trial after a month-long delay due to surgery. Netanyahu, who has pleaded not guilty, denies all charges in this case. He is the first sitting Israeli Prime Minister to face criminal charges. Tensions are escalating in the Baltic Sea after an undersea fiber optic cable linking Latvia and Sweden was damaged, sparking suspicions of sabotage. The incident happened on Sunday, with the Latvia reporting significant damage to an undersea cable, likely caused by external interference. NATO has swiftly responded by deploying patrol ships under its Baltic Sentry mission, while Sweden launched a sabotage investigation. Swedish authorities seized a vessel as part of the probe, with the senior prosecutor Mats Lundqvist confirming ongoing investigative measures. The damaged cable lies in Sweden's economic zone, disrupting communications. Providers, however, have rerouted traffic repairs and may in fact take weeks, that's what they say, because with the heightened concerns following previous incidents involving critical infrastructure since the Russia-Ukraine conflict, NATO forces remain on high alert. Meanwhile, the Latvian Prime Minister Evika Selina emphasized coordination with NATO and Baltic nations to uncover the truth.
We have also determined that damage is most likely from an external force, and it must be quite significant. And the naval forces have also been involved and have surveilled the potential area.
On to the Russia-Ukraine conflict now, and Russian troops have taken control of the village of Velkya Novosilka. This is in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region, and this is what the state-run TASS news agency has said, citing Defense Ministry officials. Now, the drone footage was also released by the Russian Defense Ministry on Sunday, and it showed soldiers waving Russian flags atop shattered buildings and debris-strewn streets. This came hours after Russia announced the capture of the town of Zelin, also in Donetsk. In another update, Russian Defense Ministry claimed to have destroyed 32 Ukrainian drones overnight, with nearly half of the drones destroyed over the Voronezh region that borders Ukraine and the rest in several nearby regions. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian Air Force said on Monday that its air defenses had downed 57 of 104 drones launched by Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky replaced the commander overseeing the defense of Pokrovsk for the third time in less than a year. Announcing this change in his nightly address, Zelensky emphasized that Drapatya leadership would continue, in fact, would unite the combat operations with enhanced brigade training. Drapatya replaces Major General Andrei Hanatov, who shifts to a key role in training and communication. Meanwhile, Russian troops press forward in Donetsk, as we had mentioned earlier, encircling Pokrovsk from the south, as well as targeting supply routes and heightening the stakes in the Ukraine defense. Well, tensions also rise in the Democratic Republic of Congo as the M23 rebel group asserts control over Goma, which is a critical city in the country's east. Meanwhile, the UN Security Council has condemned the blatant violation of Congo's sovereignty and territorial integrity, calling for the removal of external forces without explicitly naming them. Here's a report by DD India's Harshita Oberoi.
Tensions have escalated in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo as the M23 rebel group claims to have seized Goma, a strategic city near the Rwandan border. Explosions and gunfire reverberated Sunday night, deepening a conflict that has displaced hundreds of thousands. Fierce clashes between M23 Congolese forces and UN peacekeepers have pushed Goma to the brink. The Congolese government accuses Rwanda of backing M23, calling it a declaration of war. Rwanda denies the allegations, insisting its troops are maintaining a defensive stance. However, UN reports claim Rwanda has deployed soldiers to support the rebels, allegedly to exploit the region's mineral wealth. Amid rising tensions, Kenya's President William Ruto announced an emergency summit with DRC President Felix Tshisekedi and Rwanda's President Paul Kagame to de-escalate the crisis.
I call on the parties to the Luanda process on Eastern DRC and appeal specifically to my brothers, President Felix Tshisekedi and President Paul Kagame, to heed the call for peace.
The human toll is devastating. Over 400,000 people have been displaced this year, with key roads and Goma's airport blocked. Humanitarian efforts are paralyzed, leaving many without essential supplies. The UN Security Council condemned the violation of Congo's sovereignty, demanding the withdrawal of external forces, but stopped short of naming Rwanda. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called on Rwanda to cease support for M23. US Ambassador Dorothy Shea issued a stern warning.
The United States will consider all the tools at its disposal in order to hold accountable those responsible for sustaining armed conflict, instability, and insecurity in the DRC.
The UK and France echoed concerns, urging an end to attacks on peacekeepers and civilians. Peacekeepers have borne heavy losses, with 13 killed, including 9 South Africans. Diplomatic ties between DRC and Rwanda have collapsed, with both nations recalling ambassadors. Harshita Oberoi, DD India.
Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Alexander Lukashenko wins another landslide to extend his 31-year rule in Belarus. LPG tanker truck explodes in Multan in Pakistan. Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls' pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Belarus's leader Alexander Lukashenko, in power since 1994, has won a 7th consecutive term in office on Sunday in an election denounced by the European Union and the exiled opposition. With his opponents in prison or exiled, the 70-year-old leader has won approximately 87.6% of the vote. Lukashenko has orchestrated a ruthless crackdown on opponents since huge protests against him in 2020. This time around, the candidates picked to run against him actually campaigned in his favor. The vote took place 5 years into a wave of heightened repression in Belarus, during which time rights groups, they say that the country has jailed more than 1,200 political prisoners. The Russian President Vladimir Putin congratulated the Belarusian president, saying that the election showed that he had the undoubted backing of his people. The 27th of January 2025 marks the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Nazi German concentration and extermination camp Auschwitz-Birkenau. And this year's observance is particularly poignant as survivors, now in their advanced years, continue to bear witness to atrocities they had endured. The Auschwitz-Birkenau State Museum expects around 50 survivors to attend Monday's events. They will be joined by heads of state, including King Charles and other European royalty, Emmanuel Macron of France, and the German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier. Remembering the victims of the Holocaust, the EU chief, Ursula von der Leyen, said that as the last survivors fade, it is the duty as Europeans to remember the unspeakable crimes and to honor the memories of the victims. We now get you details on Auschwitz's liberation. Auschwitz was the most notorious of the extermination camps and has become a symbol of Nazi Germany's genocide of 6 million European Jews. 1 million Jews died at the site between 1940 and 1945, along with more than 100,000 non-Jews. It was created in 1940 using barracks in Auschwitz, southern Poland, and its name was Germanized into Auschwitz by the Nazis. The first 728 Polish political prisoners arrived on June 14 of that year. On January 17, 1945, as Soviet troops advanced, the SS forced 60,000 emaciated prisoners to walk west in what became known as the Death March. From January 21 to 26, the Germans blew up the Birkenau gas chambers and crematoria and withdrew as Soviet troops had approached. On January 27, Soviet troops had arrived, finding 7,000 survivors. The day of its liberation has been designated by the United Nations as Holocaust Memorial Day. South Korea's authorities, they have looked at the investigations, the investigation of last month's Jeju Air plane crash. They have submitted a preliminary accident report to the UN Aviation Agency and to authorities of the United States, France and Thailand. Now, the report said investigation into the deadliest air disaster on the country's soil remains ongoing. Investigation is focused on the role of a bird strike and involving an analysis of the engines and the localizer landing guidance structure. The International Civil Aviation Organization, the UN agency, requires accident investigators to produce a preliminary report within 30 days of the accident and encourages a final report to be made within 12 months. The Jeju Air crash on December 29 at the Muan International Airport had killed 179 people. It is the deadliest air disaster in that country. Now, let's take a look at the final minutes of flight 7C 2216, as provided by the preliminary report of the South Korean Transport Ministry and fire authorities.
At 8:54 a.m., Jeju Air 7C2216 contacts Muan Airport Air Traffic Control as it makes the final approach and is given clearance to land. At 8:57 a.m., Air Traffic Control gives caution bird activity advisory. At 8:58 a.m., Jeju Air pilots are heard talking about spotting a flock of birds under the aircraft. At 8:58 a.m., the aircraft's flight data recorder, FDR, and the cockpit voice recorder, CVR, stop recording. At 8:58 a.m., Flight 7C2216 pilot declares emergency mayday. Pilot tells air traffic control the aircraft is on a go-around due to bird strike. 9 a.m., after initiating a go-around, flight requests clearance to land on runway 19. At 9:02 a.m., air traffic control alerts crash bell at Airport Fire Rescue Unit. At 9:02 a.m., Airport Fire Rescue Unit completes deploying fire rescue equipment, and at 9:02 a.m., Flight 7C2216 crashes into embankment after overshooting the runway. At 9:23 a.m., one male rescued and transported to a temporary medical facility. At 9:38 a.m., Muan Airport is closed, and at 9:50 a.m., rescue completed of a second person from inside tail section of the plane.
Well, an LPG tanker truck exploded and it occurred in Pakistan's Multan region on Monday. It resulted in at least 5 fatalities and 31 injuries. The blast from the gas-laden tanker ignited a massive fire, with debris scattering across nearby residential areas, causing extensive damage. Emergency services quickly responded to the scene. All classes and examinations were suspended in Dhaka University on Monday because of clashes among students of the university with the Dhaka College and 6 other colleges. 4 platoons of border guard of Bangladesh along with police assistants have been deployed. The clashes began when the university failed to agree to a 5-point demand by the students to abolish the unjust quota system that they call in the admission test. Now, after which the students of Dhaka College tried to enter the university area with a protest march. Later on, students from several other DU Dhaka University, that is dormitories, retaliated. And DD India's Naval Singh Parmar now joins us from Dhaka in Bangladesh for more on this. Mr. Parmar, now does this have the makings of another major student protest?
It is difficult to say at current situation, but yes, the Dhaka University is the center of political activities in Bangladesh, and the students in Bangladesh are a dominant class, we can say, in the politics of Bangladesh. So this kind of situation is unwanted for this interim government. And as the student leaders of the 7 colleges which are against the protest of Dhaka University's administration, they demanded apology, unconditional apology from the Dhaka University authority, as well as resignation of the pro-VC of Dhaka University, Mamun Ahmad. And they given 4 hours ultimatum, and that's end at 4 p.m. local time of Bangladesh. So we have to see what will happen because the atmosphere in the central Dhaka, surrounding the Dhaka University is charged up, and the students of these 7 colleges are giving a protest against in front of particular colleges. So practically the most of the areas in the central Dhaka are in standstill condition due to the traffic obstacle created by the student protesters. And they warn that if their demands, 6-point demands, are being not met, then they will give tougher action in coming days.
So these among the 6-point demands is also the quota system. So why? I mean, the first protest itself, which led to the Sheikh Hasina government falling, was also about quota. How come nothing has happened? I mean, or what is the real position with regard to the quota system currently?
Actually, this quota, they are asking about the quota reforms in the quota systems during the admission in the Dhaka University. Actually, student organizations here are they play very important role in the politics of Bangladesh. So once the government, whichever government is in power, they have their own student wing, and they try to exclude the students from the other organization. So they want to have a dominance on the university's dormitories and halls and the university areas, so they can have a control of the political activity in the university. So other colleges and other universities, they were also against the quota reforms during the Sheikh Hasina government. They are also saying that we were also part of anti-discrimination movement, and we are not getting any benefits of the regime change or the reforms in the education system. So they want that there should be a transparency in the allocation of the admission as well as the hall and the residential hostel in the Dhaka University, and they are demanding that they want now a separate university, independent university for this 7 college. So this is students' internal issue, and it is the issue in which the everybody means Sibir, which is affiliated to Jamaat-e-Islami, and the Chhatra Dal of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, as well as the Chhatra League of Awami League. They are now not in on the theater of the student politics, but the Chhatra Dal and Sibir, they are on the loggerhead with each other to have a dominance in the student politics or the Dhaka University.
Right. We'll get in touch with you, Mr. Parmar, for more details as and when this situation develops. Thanks for being with us for the moment. Now, 3 active fires in Los Angeles neared full containment as the region receives much needed rain that has produced floods as well as mudslide warnings lasting through till Monday. California fire data marked the Palisades fire at 87% containment, the Eaton fire at 95% containment, and the Hughes fire at 92% containment. Meanwhile, the US President Donald Trump has issued an executive order establishing a review council to evaluate the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or the FEMA, stopping short of instant action to shut or to reshape the country's lead disaster response agency. Trump called on the council to hold its first public meeting within 90 days and submit a report to him within 180 days of the first meeting. The French weather department, the Météo France, it has issued an orange alert, its second highest alert for 10 French departments in the wake of storm Herminia. It's expected to travel towards northern regions of that country on Monday. Earlier on Sunday, floodwaters had submerged cars and buildings in the western city of Rennes, and this is as the storm had reached its western parts. Herminia is the second storm to impact the region days after Storm Owen had caused widespread destruction, claiming 1 life. Meanwhile, in the UK, the storm Owen, it had brought record-breaking winds with gusts of up to 114 meters per hour. So what's happened is that it has resulted in partial collapse of a building in the Greater Manchester. Over 100, in fact, over 1,000 flights, they have been cancelled at British and Irish airports, with authorities warning people living across Scotland and parts of northern England to avoid travelling until further information. Let's take a look at other stories now making news from around the world. 2 children have died and 17 migrants were rescued after a shipwreck in the Mediterranean Sea on Sunday. The rescue operation took place in the Maltese search and rescue area. The remaining survivors and the bodies of the deceased children were transferred to an Italian Coast Guard vessel. Climate change has impacted quinoa farmers in the Puno region of Peru, and they are facing increasing challenges there. Unpredictable weather patterns, including sudden frosts and hailstorms, are threatening their crops and their livelihoods. To mitigate these risks, the farmers are actively engaging in community-based initiatives for safe harvests. A group of Thai students won the snow sculpting competition in China. Talking about the secret of winning, they said that they had used sandstone as the base for their sculpture. Twin guardians creating a solid base for ice to stay put, and the students had in fact been preparing for this face-off since October of last year. Still to come on DD India News Hour. India's External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar has begun an official visit to the UAE from today. We'll discuss the US tariff diplomacy with an expert.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main stories. Colombia says that they will continue to receive Colombians who are returning as deportees after the Trump administration slapped sanctions. The hostage for prisoner swap continues, with 6 hostages for 200 prisoners agreed. The U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth assures Israel of U.S. defense support. The preliminary investigation points to a bird strike for the Jeju flight crash landing in South Korea. It's still unclear as to why the landing gear had failed. And to discuss the Trump administration's tariff diplomacy and its results so far, we have with us Professor Swaran Singh from the School of International Studies, JNU. Thank you very much, Professor Singh. Now, surely the Colombians, they have coffee and plenty of it. That coffee should have provided Colombia with more leverage, one would think.
Indeed, Mark, that's true. Nearly 27 to 30% of total imports of coffee in United States comes from Colombia. And then, of course, there are a whole lot of other exports that Colombia also is known for, including crude oil to United States. So surely this kind of anxiety on both sides and commentaries from the very top of their leadership is going to have disruptive impact on bilateral relations, even though Colombia is viewed as a strong, close partner of United States, except that the current leadership has issues with Donald Trump. So it's a fundamentally disruptive way of conducting foreign policy, which has continued, continued to be an issue of concern with most of both friends and competitors of United States. It's not for the first time that United States is deporting people. Indeed, starting from Bill Clinton's time, nearly a million people were deported during his time. Then, of course, 9/11 came, and George Bush tenure saw a double of 2 million people being deported, followed by Obama deporting about 3.2 billion people. So it's a million people, 3.2 million people. So it's not that United States was not deporting people, but this whole chaos, the way it is being handled, the way it is being weaponized, shall we say, I think that is completely different, and that's to the minimum, it's going to be disruptive in bilateral relations or in foreign policy of United States.
Indeed, I mean, it's playing out in the public because Gustavo Petro, who's the president of Colombia, even offered his own presidential plane to bring them back. But how serious do you see the problem of illegal immigration? How is it going to get? Because the approach may cater to the Trump voter base currently, but, people moving for better opportunities is a natural course of human existence. It's going to continue. And naturally, they would be seeking, I mean, after all, there's a land route, they'd be seeking that to reach the United States.
Indeed, the whole rigor of border security, passports and visas is nothing but about 80 to 100 years old in effect. Now it started in the First World War onwards. So people have been traveling around the world. In fact, we often say that the US success story or the American dream is based on hard work of immigrants. And in that sense, they have been the force behind the success story of United States. And they go around the world, they go to other countries also. And I think the basic expectation from United States leadership would be to have at least some dignity attached to some of these harsh actions that are being undertaken. You can't ad nauseum and blanket together and describe the whole community, whole nationality as criminals or gangsters and things like that. And that kind of abrasive language and sending unannounced military flights with people on board being described as criminals is not going to be acceptable to any country. In fact, even within United States, Mark, you must have seen Chicago mayor said he's not even involved in what federal agencies are doing in various cities, arresting nearly 1,500 people during the Sunday yesterday only. So, both internally, the discomfort is becoming visible. And of course, externally, no nation will accept that entire citizens of that nation could be branded as criminals, and that's not going to be acceptable to any country.
True. You did mention about how US is built on the work of immigrants, but the argument they are being made now is about illegal immigrants, and they too provide crucial labor. It seems, they keeps the costs down. Is inflation going to be a problem going forward? Because first of all, you have higher tariffs on incoming goods. Now you're going to have higher wages within the United States for labor that's available there.
That is true, that internally United States is not just going to benefit from this kind of abrasive actions. As you mentioned, tariffs going up means consumer items are going to be much more expensive for Americans. Second, the cheap labor. In fact, many of the states in the United States have industrial legislations putting it in black and white that no one should be threatened of deportation in terms of, being the workers in whether agriculture or industrial sector. So, I understand the focus is on illegal immigrants, but even illegal immigrants have made some contributions. They have ensured cheap labor, to say the least.
Right.
Of course, no nation is supportive of, illegal movements. Mobility must be legal. But it also casts aspersions on your own agencies. In that sense, how could so many illegal people could walk into United States? That means there is also need to look at whether your own agency's apparatus has been effective or ineffective. So blame lies on both sides, not just on immigrants who are coming in to look for opportunities for a better life, but also your own agencies. And therefore, if you want to deport them, it at least ensure there is basic human dignity, human rights are maintained. And, not that entire country and everyone coming from that country is called names which
absolutely
are going to be.
So finally, Professor Singh, how do you see this playing out? Because all Trump appointees currently are eager to fulfill their tasks, and we can see that the border czar is working hard, many of the others also. But Trump is acting through executive orders right now. So do you see any checks coming in, let's say from the legislature or the judiciary going forward?
See, already some of the very important executive orders, for example, or executive order on citizenship by birth has already come into question in courts. So I think many of these things will be, including deportations, are going to be questioned in courts. People are going to go there because it's not a black and white that people are either illegal or legal. There's a whole spectrum of people who they think they are legally in United States, but in the assessment of various agencies, their papers may not be effective enough or whatever, may not be dated and so on. For example, the media is today saying that the Indian couple was deported back from United States because they did not have the return ticket, which they did not know was required. So some of these people who are innocent, they are genuinely going there. They think they are legal, but they may be described as illegal now. So all those things, I think, are going to go to courts, and of course, legislature as well. We are noticing, Hegseth was confirmed by Senate when 3 Republican senators themselves voted against it.
Right.
So in that, opposition is going to come also within Republicans. We are noticing that happening repeatedly. So, in terms of checks and balances, both judiciary and legislatures, I think, will step in soon. And increasingly, American citizens, I think, themselves will become aware that such disruptions are only going to create more difficulties for them as well. It's not going to be making America great again simply by such aggressive actions. It's going to also have costs attached to United States as well.
We will leave it there. Thank you very much, Professor Swaran Singh from the School of International Studies, JNU. Thank you for your insights. Now, moving on to our next story, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. He will be paying an official visit to the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, from the 27th to the 29th of this month. And during this visit, the minister is going to meet the leadership of the UAE to review the close partnership between the two countries, as well as to explore avenues for further enhancing the bilateral relationship. So this visit will provide an opportunity to advance the comprehensive strategic partnership that the two countries have. And moving to resume bilateral engagements with China, India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri is on a 2-day visit to Beijing, during which he will hold talks with the Chinese officials in the second such high-profile visit by an Indian diplomat to China in less than 1.5 months. The resumption of this bilateral mechanism flows from the agreement at the leadership level to discuss the next steps for India-China relations, including in the political, economic and people-to-people domains. The visit of Misri, who was also India's ambassador to China in the past, is taking place ahead of celebrations of China's Spring Festival and the Chinese New Year, which begins on January 29, during which the country will officially shut down for a week. The North Indian state of Uttarakhand implemented the Uniform Civil Code on Monday, becoming the first state of independent India to enact this law. Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami had inaugurated the rules and portal for the UCC's implementation. He stated that the UCC would bring uniformity to society while ensuring equal rights and responsibilities for all citizens. The UCC seeks to establish a consistent set of laws or rules governing marriage, divorce, succession and inheritance for all citizens in the state, excluding scheduled tribes regardless of religion. It also mandates that the registration of all marriages should take place and live-in relationships should also be registered. So the UCC Act was notified on March 12th of last year after receiving presidential assent.
1.25 करोड़ उत्तराखंड वासियों के समक्ष एक घोषणा करते हुए आज अत्यंत हर्ष और गर्व की अनुभूति हो रही है और कि इसी क्षण से आज उत्तराखंड में इसी क्षण से समान नागरिक संहिता पूर्ण रूप से लागू हो गई है और इसी क्षण से उत्तराखंड राज्य के समस्त नागरिकों के संवैधानिक और नागरिक अधिकार एक समान हो गए हैं.
And now for all the latest news from the Maha Kumbh, which is the largest gathering of humans on the planet. The Maha Kumbh has witnessed over 132 million devotees taking a holy dip at the confluence of the rivers Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati so far. On Monday, India's Home Minister Amit Shah took a holy dip at the Triveni Sangam. The minister also offered prayers at the Maha Kumbh. He was accompanied by the State Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath and saints and sages. The Home Minister will also meet the Maharaja and other saints of the Akhada for lunch. Meanwhile, a sea of devotees have started converging in Prayagraj for the Maha Kumbh ahead of the Amrit Snan on Moni Amavasya, which is on Wednesday. So the devotees have been braving cold wave and other fog-like conditions to take their holy dips. The Maha Kumbh is drawing visitors from around the world. They are keen to embrace the beauty of spirituality and to feel the power and the magic of the vibrations, as Deepika Mehto tells us.
Many countries have come together to embrace Maha Kumbh 2025 and immerse themselves in the ocean of spirituality. UK's Christopher says that Indian culture is very close to their heart, and with the help of Mohanji Foundation, they are able to embrace it.
Mohanji Foundation in generally has completely transformed my life, and Mohanji is someone who's bringing the essence, I would say, of Bharat, of India, to the world and to a global audience, particularly the messages of non-violence, unity, and coming together beyond all caste, country, religions, genders, and that case.
Belgium's Thea is making a documentary on Maha Kumbh. She believes that the great festival has a lot to offer.
My first time at Kumbh Mela, obviously, and I have to say it has been very enriching.
Mohanji Foundation's CEO expresses immense pride in being able to unite the world at Kumbh.
Great opportunity for us, and I think it's also saying that we are privileged to be part of it. So it's both a blessing and a message to the world that this is a very, very important gathering, a very important occasion, and we are very happy to be part of it.
The foreign delegates believe that Maha Kumbh has the immense power that transforms a person into a pure soul.
The dips are really special for me. We are taking dips at 5 a.m. in the morning, and it is really like you feel light, you feel pure, and it's really incredible.
I felt the energy, I felt the purification, I felt after the 5 a.m. dips that we go for, how the energy is, how we're colliding with the energy. And I just want to stay here, and I want to stay here longer. So we are staying till the end of February.
I feel like at home, but also it's transformative. It's kind of challenging, right? Like everyday life is. So it's a kind of intensified.
It's a privilege to meet in this space. It's different than having a retreat any other places in the world. It's very high energy, very intense, and very beautiful.
Maha Kumbh is also witnessing women empowerment. The global participants are promoting local products made by women.
Women are playing a really big role in the world, especially in this Sanatanam Dharma. We need that woman touch, the motherhood that come into the Sanatanam Dharma into a one, all in one. And I find that is playing one of the biggest role.
Maha Kumbh has become a powerful spiritual destination of the world, embracing wisdom, pure soul, and celebrating the culture of India.
So there you heard that many of the countries have united at Maha Kumbh 2025 to bring Sanatana Dharma at the forefront, to make it more understandable for every human being present on the planet Earth, and to also feel the vibrations of Maha Kumbh 2025 and the important celestial movement which is happening after 144 years, making it even more magical. With camera person Shiv Suman, this is Sipika reporting for DD India from Maha Kumbh, Prayagraj.
Well, let's take a look at other stories making the news. The Chief Minister of the northeastern state of Assam, Himanta Biswa Sarma, declared on Sunday that Dibrugarh would become the state's second capital and a full metropolis, citing solid groundwork to improve connectivity and the ease of living. The Chief Minister also laid the foundation stones for 4 significant flyovers in the city, totaling 4.4 kilometers and costing 337 crore rupees. The Indian Army conducted a joint operation including Assam Rifles in coordination with the Manipur Police and other security forces. They recovered 35 weapons, ammunition and warlike stones and stores during this raid. The recoveries were made from various districts including Thaubal, Tingnapal, Bishnupur, Churchandpur, as well as Imphal West, Noni and Kakching. The Rashtriya Raksha University has successfully inaugurated its first International Olympic Research Conference on Monday. The event was graced by the Union Minister, Dr. Mansukh Mandavia. The The core purpose, in fact, of this conference is to unite global experts, to foster academic dialogue and to drive innovation in Olympic research. Okay, still to come here on DD India News Hour. Yannick Sinner poses with his second Australian Open title. And Surma Hockey Club eyes a playoff spot in a clash against Vedanta Kalinga Lancers.
Timeless, boundless and infinite, the essence of faith, the soul of Sanatan culture, from the sacred confluence of Prayag, where divinity descends to earth. Witness the grandeur, the devotion, the magic, world's largest cultural and spiritual gathering, with over 450 million devotees expected to attend. Maha Kumbh, India's greatest festival of faith. Exclusively on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. On to the Khelo India Winter Games now, and the finals of the ice hockey event took place in Leh on Monday. The Army defeated the Indo-Tibetan Border Police 2-1 in a thrilling final to win the men's ice hockey event. In fact, the Army opened the scoring in the third period with the ITBP equalizing with just 2 minutes left on the clock. Eventually, the Army clinched the game with the title, in fact, with a goal in the dying minutes of the game. Earlier, the UT Ladakh secured a 4-0 win over the Indo-Tibetan Border Police in the final of the women's ice hockey event. The first period ended in a goalless tie, and then Ladakh struck twice in the second period and doubled their lead with the third period to take the crown. So we saw that the Army had secured the first position in the men's ice hockey event in Leh, and the winning team shared their excitement in an exclusive conversation with DD India's Abhishek Mahajan.
What an exciting game that we witnessed today between Army and ITBP in ice hockey, a humdinger, and ultimately Army coming out victorious against ITBP. They were the defending champions and they have won again. I have the winning team members with me. Sevang, first of all, a great win for you. Second time you have won consecutively, you have won the gold medal.
Yeah, thanks. Firstly, I would like to say thanks to Khelo India Winter Games. So about today's match, it was a very tough match. So first of all, I would like to very thankful to the spectators and crowd. So they give us energetic to how to play. It gives us energy, and also thanks to Sai, Fit India.
So, well, I'll come to you. It was 1-0 when 2 minutes were left. ITBP scored a goal. When 1 minute was left, and again you scored a goal. It was a very, very close game.
आज का मैच में बहुत ही मज़ा ही आया. पहले हम लीड थे, फिर वो लोग लीड हुए, फिर और उन लोगों ने लीड किए, फिर हमने लीड करके हमने मैच जिता लिया.
And Stanzen, there was a huge crowd. More than 5,000 people were there. I mean, they were cheering you up continuously. Does that give a lot of confidence?
Thanks to all the here to come to cheer our the team. It's our second winning team of the Khelo India national game. Thank you for all the supporters to help us, to help our team, and all my team members to congratulations once again. Hope we are doing next year will be in the good Josh, and hope we are once more in the gold medals.
Captain is also with us, Tanzan Pandey. All of your players, they worked according to the strategy, and that's why this result.
सबसे पहले मैं दोनों टीमों को कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशन कहूँगा, और मैं खास अपने टीम को मैं बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, क्योंकि मेरे जो स्ट्रेटेजी था वही उनके हिसाब से चला,
और मैं जितना भी सपोर्टर था आर्मी का उन सभी को तहे दिल से शुक्रगुजार हूँ और साथ साथ में मैं यूटी लद्दाख एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन और साय को दोनों को मैं दिल से शुक्रिया दे रहा हूँ.
Thank you so much for speaking with us. You have won again, beating ITBP 2-1, and may you play for India and win more and more medals for the country. With cameraman Shubham Sharma, this is Abhishek Mahajan in Leh for DD India.
Well, Indian Grandmaster R. Pragnananda played out a solid draw with compatriot world champion D. Gukesh in the 8th round of the Tata Steel Masters on Sunday, playing with white of the white side on a Berlin defence. Pragnananda had a slightly favourable position optically, but Gukesh was always active to defend, and it was in the early middle game, in fact, that Gukesh had sacrificed a pawn to get a counterplay rolling, but Pragnananda was not able to make use of that advantage, and the game was always closer to a draw. And with this draw, both Pragnananda and Gukesh continue to share the lead with 5.5 points alongside another prodigious young talent, Abdusattorov Nodirbek of Uzbekistan. Yannick Sinner showed off his Australian Open trophy on Monday after he retained the title with an emphatic win over Alexander Zverev. The world number 1 became Italy's first player to win 3 Grand Slam crowns on Sunday, moving past Nicola Pietrangeli, who had won back-to-back men's titles, and this was in 1959 to 1960. The Men's Hockey India League, Surma Hockey Club, has aimed to secure a playoff spot as they're going to face off with Vedanta Kalinga Lancers. This is a crucial league encounter at the Birsa Munda Hockey Stadium in Rourkela later today. Now, having won both their matches in Phase 2, Surma is building momentum with a narrow 4-3 victory over the Lancers in their previous encounter. Meanwhile, Bengal Tigers will be taking on the Delhi SG Pipers on Monday as well. The Men's Hockey India League is set to conclude this week, with the final scheduled to take place on Saturday. The inaugural edition of the Women's Hockey India League came to an end with the Odisha Warriors lifting the title in Ranchi on Sunday. They secured a hard-fought 2-1 victory over Surma Hockey Club in the final. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app, which is available on Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lynn from all of us here in Delhi. Thank you for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.